The phone buzzed in Ethan's hand, a sharp jolt that snapped him out of his daydreams. He was sprawled on his bed in his cramped Chicago apartment, the city's hum seeping through the cracked window. The notification glowed on his screen. New message from Silver Fox 47. His heart skipped. He'd been on the app for weeks, swiping through profiles with cautious hope, but this one felt different. The profile picture was just a silhouette against a sunset. No face, but the bio, witty, warm, and a little guarded, had drawn him in. He tapped the message, expecting a casual opener. Instead, 3 words froze his blood. Ethan, it's Marcus. Marcus, his dad's best friend. The man who'd taught him how to throw a baseball at 10, who'd shown up at every awkward family barbecue with a laugh that filled the room. Ethan's thumb hovered over the screen, his mind racing. How the hell did Marcus, of all people, find him on a gay dating app? His stomach churned with a mix of dread and something else, something he didn't want to name. He typed back, fingers trembling. Marcus? Like Uncle Marcus. The reply came fast. Yeah, we need to talk. Coffee tomorrow, 7 p.m., Blue Moon Cafe. Don't tell your dad. Ethan stared at the words, his pulse hammering. This wasn't just a coincidence. This was a collision. Ethan had come out to his parents a year ago, at 21, after years of hiding. His mom had cried, then hugged him. His dad, Tom, had gone quiet, his face unreadable, before muttering, "You're still my son." It wasn't rejection, but it wasn't acceptance either. Marcus had been there that night, sitting across the dinner table, his eyes steady on Ethan, offering a nod that felt like a lifeline. Ethan had always looked up to Marcus, ex-Marine, now a contractor, with a quiet strength and a knack for making everyone feel seen. But this was something else entirely. He didn't sleep that night. His mind spun with questions. Was Marcus gay? Bi? Was this a setup? A warning? Or, his chest tightened at the thought, something more? By morning, he was a wreck, but he couldn't back out. He needed answers. The Blue Moon Cafe was a cozy spot in Wicker Park, all exposed brick and soft jazz. Ethan arrived early, claiming a corner table, his knee bouncing under the table. When Marcus walked in, Ethan's breath caught. The man looked different outside the context of family gatherings. Taller, somehow, in a fitted black jacket, his graying hair catching the light. His eyes found Ethan's, and for a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them. Ethan, Marcus said, sliding into the seat across from him. His voice was low, steady, but there was a crack in it, a hint of something raw. I didn't mean to blindside you. Then why didn't you just call me? Ethan's voice came out sharper than he meant. Why the app? Marcus leaned back, rubbing the back of his neck. Because I wasn't sure you'd talk to me otherwise. Not about this. About what? Ethan's heart pounded. Marcus, what the hell is going on? Are you? Marcus held up a hand, his expression unreadable. I've been on that app for 6 months. Nobody knows. Not your dad, not my ex-wife, nobody. I saw your profile last week, and he paused, his jaw tightening. I couldn't just swipe past you. Ethan's mind reeled. Marcus, the guy who'd been his dad's rock through every crisis, was sitting here admitting he was what? Gay? Closeted? The weight of it hit Ethan like a tidal wave. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but all he managed was, why me? Marcus's eyes softened, and for the first time, Ethan saw something unguarded in them. Because I've known you since you were a kid, Ethan. And now you're not a kid anymore. I saw your profile, and it wasn't just a shock. It was a wake-up call. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning Ethan couldn't yet grasp. He felt exposed, like Marcus could see every secret he'd ever buried. But there was something else, too. A spark, dangerous and undeniable, flickering in the space between them. The cafe's hum faded as Ethan processed Marcus's words. A wake-up call. What did that even mean? He gripped his coffee mug, the ceramic warm against his palms, grounding him as his thoughts spiraled. Marcus sat across from him, his broad shoulders tense, his eyes searching Ethan's face for a reaction. I don't get it, Ethan said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. You're my dad's best friend. You've known me forever. Why are you telling me this now? Marcus exhaled, long and slow, like he was letting go of something he'd held for years. Because I'm tired, Ethan. Tired of pretending. Tired of living half a life. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his voice dropping. I've been hiding who I am since I was your age. Back then, it wasn't safe. Not in my family, not in the Marines. I married Laura to fit in, to shut up the questions. But it didn't work. Not really. Ethan's chest tightened. He'd always seen Marcus as unshakable, the guy who could fix anything. A leaky roof, a family argument, a kid's broken bike. But now, Marcus looked human. Vulnerable. It was disorienting, like seeing a hero step off a pedestal. So, you're saying you're gay? Ethan asked, his voice steadier now, though his heart was anything but. Marcus nodded, just once, his eyes never leaving Ethan's. Yeah, I am. And seeing you on that app, out, living your truth, it hit me hard. You're braver than I ever was. Ethan laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Brave? Marcus, I'm a mess. I came out, sure, but my dad barely looks at me now. I'm on that app because I'm lonely, not because I've got it all figured out. Marcus's expression softened, and he reached out, his hand stopping just short of Ethan's. You're not a mess. You're honest. That's more than I can say for myself most days. The air between them crackled, charged with something Ethan couldn't name. He wanted to push back, to demand answers, but there was a warmth in Marcus's gaze that made him pause. He'd always admired Marcus, his strength, his quiet humor, but this was different. This was dangerous. What do you want from me? Ethan asked, his voice low, almost a challenge. Marcus hesitated, his fingers curling into a fist on the table. I don't know yet. I couldn't ignore you. Not after seeing you there, being who you are. It made me want to be honest, too. At least with you. Ethan's mind raced. This wasn't just a confession. It was an invitation, a door cracked open to something he wasn't sure he was ready to step through. He thought of his dad, of the years Marcus had been a fixture in their lives. If this went any further, it could shatter everything. But he couldn't look away from Marcus's eyes, dark and searching, filled with a longing that mirrored his own. The next few days were a blur. Ethan went through the motions. Work at the bookstore, late-night study sessions for his grad school classes. But Marcus's words clung to him like damp clothes. I couldn't ignore you. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Marcus's face, the way his voice had cracked, the way his hand had almost touched his. It was too much, too real. He avoided the app, afraid of seeing Marcus's profile again, afraid of what he'd do if he did. But on Friday night, alone in his apartment with a glass of cheap wine, he caved. He opened the app, found Marcus's profile, and stared at the silhouette against the sunset. Silver Fox 47. He could message him. He could end this, whatever this was, before it started. Or he could lean in. He typed, "You said you wanted to be honest. So be honest. What do you want?" The reply came within minutes. To see you again. No expectations. Just us. Ethan's heart pounded. He shouldn't. He knew he shouldn't. Marcus was his dad's best friend, practically family. But the pull was undeniable, a current dragging him under. He agreed to meet at a quiet bar in Logan Square the next night. The bar was dimly lit, all warm wood and low music. Marcus was already there, nursing a beer, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. When he saw Ethan, he smiled. A small, private smile that made Ethan's stomach flip. "You came," Marcus said, his voice warm. "Didn't have much choice," Ethan said, sliding onto the stool next to him. "You've got me all messed up." Marcus chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "That makes two of us." They talked for hours, about Marcus's failed marriage, his years of hiding, the guilt that gnawed at him every time he saw Ethan's dad. About Ethan's own struggles, his fear of disappointing his parents, his longing for a connection that felt real. The more they talked, the more Ethan saw Marcus not as the untouchable hero of his childhood, but as a man carrying his own wounds, his own hopes. When the bar started to empty, Marcus leaned closer, his voice low. "I don't know where this goes, Ethan, but I know I feel something when I'm with you. Something I haven't felt in years." Ethan's breath hitched. He wanted to say something, anything, but all he could do was nod. Marcus's hand brushed his under the table, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through him. It was a risk, a line crossed, and they both knew it. They started meeting in secret. Coffee shops, late-night walks along Lake Michigan, stolen moments in Marcus's car. Each time, Ethan told himself it was just talking, just two people figuring things out. But every glance, every brush of their hands, said otherwise. He was falling, and it terrified him. Marcus was careful, always checking over his shoulder, always keeping things vague when Ethan's dad called. Ethan hated the secrecy, but he understood it. Marcus wasn't out. His life, his business, his friendships, his entire world was built on a version of himself that didn't include this. Ethan, at least, had a head start. He'd already faced the fallout of coming out. Marcus was still standing at the edge of that cliff. One night, in Marcus's apartment, things shifted. They'd been watching a movie, sitting close on the couch, when Marcus turned to him, his eyes dark with something unspoken. "Ethan," he said, his voice rough, "I don't know how to do this, but I want to try. With you." Ethan's heart stopped. He'd imagined this moment, but now that it was here, it felt too big, too fragile. He leaned in, and their lips met, tentative at first, then desperate, like they'd both been holding their breath for weeks. It was electric, overwhelming, and when they pulled back, Ethan saw the same fear and hope in Marcus's eyes that he felt in his own chest. But the world outside didn't stop. Ethan's dad called the next day, inviting them both to a family dinner. Ethan froze, his phone shaking in his hand. Marcus, sitting across from him, looked just as rattled. "We can't tell him," Marcus said, his voice firm but laced with panic. "Not yet." Ethan nodded, but the weight of the secret pressed harder. He wanted to scream it, to tell the world he was falling for this man. But he couldn't, not when it could cost Marcus everything. The dinner was a disaster waiting to happen. Ethan's parents' house was warm and familiar, but every laugh, every shared memory, felt like a lie. Marcus sat across from Ethan's dad, joking like always, but Ethan caught the strain in his eyes. Every time their gazes met, it was like a secret burned between them. After dinner, Ethan's dad pulled him aside. "You okay, kid? You've been quiet." Ethan forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." His dad studied him, his brow furrowed. "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" The question hit like a punch. Ethan nodded, his throat tight, and excused himself to the backyard. Marcus followed a few minutes later, finding him by the old oak tree where they'd once built a tire swing. "You're not okay," Marcus said, his voice low. "Neither are you," Ethan shot back. "This is killing me, Marcus." Hiding. Lying to my dad. To everyone. Marcus stepped closer, his hand brushing Ethan's arm. "I know. I'm trying to figure it out. I just need time." "Time for what?" Ethan's voice cracked. "To decide if I'm worth it." Marcus flinched, and for a moment, Ethan thought he'd pushed too far. But then Marcus pulled him into a hug, fierce and desperate. "You're worth everything," he whispered. "I'm just scared." Ethan clung to him, the world falling away. But the sound of the back door opening shattered the moment. They pulled apart just as Ethan's dad stepped outside, his eyes narrowing. "Everything okay out here?" Tom asked, his voice edged with suspicion. Ethan's heart stopped. Marcus answered smoothly, "Just catching up." But the look in Tom's eyes said he wasn't convinced. The suspicion lingered. Ethan's dad started asking questions. Why Marcus was around so much, why Ethan seemed distracted. Ethan dodged, deflected, but the guilt was eating him alive. He loved Marcus, he realized now, but the cost of that love was tearing him apart. Marcus was struggling too. He'd started pulling back, canceling plans, his texts growing shorter. Ethan felt him slipping away, and it hurt more than he'd expected. One night, he showed up at Marcus's apartment, unannounced, his heart in his throat. "We need to talk," Ethan said, pushing past Marcus into the living room. "You're shutting me out." Marcus looked exhausted, his eyes shadowed. "I'm trying to protect you, Ethan. If your dad finds out, it'll destroy him. And me." "So what?" Ethan's voice rose. "We just end this? Pretend it never happened?" "I don't know." Marcus snapped, his voice breaking. "I've spent my whole life hiding. I thought I could do this, but I'm not as brave as you." Ethan's eyes stung. "You think I'm not scared?" "I'm terrified. But I'm here, Marcus. I'm all in." Marcus stared at him, his face a war of emotions. Then he crossed the room in 2 strides and kissed Ethan, hard and desperate, like it was the last time. When they broke apart, Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. I love you, and that's why I'm so damn scared. The words hit Ethan like a wave. He wanted to say them back, but the fear in Marcus's eyes stopped him. They were standing on the edge of something irreversible, and neither of them knew how to move forward. The breaking point came a week later. Ethan's dad showed up at his apartment, his face grim. We need to talk about Marcus. Ethan's heart dropped. What about him? Tom held up his phone, a screenshot of a text thread between him and Marcus. Ethan's name was there, alongside words that made his stomach lurch. I'm sorry, Tom. I never meant to hurt you. He told me. Tom said, his voice shaking. About the app. About you too. Ethan felt the world tilt. Dad, don't. Tom cut him off. I don't understand this. I don't know how to feel about my best friend and my son together. But I know I love you, Ethan. And I know Marcus is a good man. So why the hell didn't you tell me? Tears stung Ethan's eyes. I was scared. We both were. Tom's face softened, just a fraction. I'm not saying I'm okay with this. Not yet. But I'm trying. That night, Ethan went to Marcus's apartment. Marcus opened the door, his eyes red, his shoulders slumped. I told him, he said before Ethan could speak. I couldn't keep lying. Ethan stepped inside, his heart pounding. And now what? Marcus took a deep breath, his hand reaching for Ethan's. Now we figure it out. Together. No more hiding. It wasn't a perfect ending. Ethan's dad was still grappling, and Marcus's world was still fragile. But as Ethan stood there, his hand in Marcus's, he felt something new. Hope. Not just for them, but for a world where love didn't have to hide. They'd face the fallout, the judgment, the uncertainty. But they'd face it together. And for the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly seen.